Yeah, continue, Prabhuji. I've started the
Okay.
recording.
Oh, thank you. We'll recite prayers and then we go to the topic. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धश्च ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरोन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्ता नमोऽस्तुते तप्त कांचना गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्णा चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधरा श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे हरे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भगवत सेवया भगवते उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकीनन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। नमः पंकजनाभाय नमः पंकजमालिने नमः पंकजनेत्राय नमस्ते पंकजांग्रे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने गौरत्विषे नमः। नमो ब्राह्मण्याय देवाय गौ ब्राह्मण हिताय च जगद्धिताय कृष्णाय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। नमः ओं विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्ता स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधरा श्रीवासादि गौरभक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। परमानंद माधव श्री चैतन्य ईश्वर कृष्ण हरे कृष्ण। Hare Krishna, all Prabhujis and Matajis. So today we're going to discuss about chapter 6 of Canto 3. And the name of the chapter is the creation of the universal form. So before that, I would like to thank all of you who are present on this discussion today. Let me see. would like to thank all of you. Apinchan Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for joining. Annapurna Mataji, Katyani Mataji,
Thank you.
Lovish Prabhu, Haribol, Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining, Prabhuji. Mahalinga Mayar Prabhu, thank you for joining.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, bro.
Hare Krishna. Padma Mataji, thank you for joining. Padma Grovi Mataji, Kalyani Mataji, Prasad Prabhu, Haribol, thank you very much for joining. I think tomorrow you have the continuation of this session.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavad Prabhu.
Raju Prabhu, Hare Krishna, thanks for joining, Prabhu. Ram Reddy Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavad Prabhu.
Dandavad Pranam Prabhuji. Santosh Aditya Prabhu, Hare Krishna, thanks for joining, Prabhuji. Satyadev Prabhu, Hare Krishna, thank you for joining.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavad Pranam.
Dandavad Pranam. Suma Mataji, Haribol, thank you very much for joining, Mataji. I think Praveen Prabhu is busy in Bhagavatam class and voice, so you are kind of replacing and filling his role. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Once again, thank you very much for all of you for joining today's session. And I take this opportunity to thank Lilananda Prabhuji for giving me this opportunity, Praveen Prabhuji and Shri Gopal Prabhuji giving this opportunity again on this day. Thank you very much. Shri Gopal Prabhu, is my screen visible? I'm not able to move it.
Yes, it is visible, Prabhuji.
Okay, very well. Okay, so we are going to discuss about chapter 6 of Canto 3, Prabhujis and Matajis, and the name of this chapter is Creation of Universal Form. Let me tell you before we start this, it's very, very and highly technical chapter. Lot of things probably, very, very technical unless we have a lot of focus towards the discussion. Probably, any deviation, we might get disconnected. So it will be difficult to connect back what's going on. So I would request all of you, to participate in the discussion and correct me if I'm going wrong anywhere, and forgive me if there are any mistakes which I am making, right, and help me to correct that. So we will go into the introduction first. So there are total 40 shlokas in this chapter, 40 verses, and with the given the length of the chapter and probably the interest of the time, today I will cover from shloka 1 to shloka 20, which is first half of this chapter, and the second half of this chapter from 21 to 40th shloka will be covered by His Grace Prasad Prabhuji tomorrow morning in the Bhagavatam class. Right, so I request all of you to please make a note and also be available tomorrow so that it is easy for you to understand the whole chapter. Otherwise, probably it will be difficult if we leave it in the halfway. So primarily, this chapter discusses about the cause of the creation, Mahatattva, the development of universal form of Lord and manifestation of demigods from the universal form. That means, very simply, in a very simple term, if I have to explain, this chapter is the starting of how the creation is made, right? And how the total formation of the cosmic creation has done, and how the Lord has separated himself into different demigods and entered into their energies. So it's little technical. So it is a starting point. So this, the whole section, or probably the first half of this chapter from first shloka to 20th shloka, we can divide into two sections. Section 1 is from shloka 1 to 11, which primarily discusses about the manifestation, different elements, and the Virat Rupa of Lord. Virat Rupa is nothing but the Vishwarupam of Lord. And section 2, shloka 12 to 20, discusses about the Supreme Personality of Godhead separated into various demigods. So section 1 to 11, or probably from 1 to 10th shloka or 11th shloka, is highly technical. It has a lot of details and a lot of things to discuss, and a lot of explanation as given by Srila Prabhupada in his purports. Section 2, 12 to 20, is primarily about which demigod has taken which form of Supreme Personality of Godhead's body, right? Probably, eyes eyes represents a specific demigod, nostril represents a specific demigod, ears represent a specific demigod. Like that, it is just an explanation. It's self-explanatory. There are technically no purports also for it, because the whole shloka just says that, for example, Lord Shiva has taken up the eyes, a role of eyes of Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are no purports given. It's just a self-explanatory, which we will cover very fast. Right? Hardly the entire section might not take more than 10 minutes or so. But the first section is very technical, lot of things to discuss and lot of things to understand. Right? So let's focus on the section 1 very, very importantly. And lastly, the whole chapter is, the context of the whole chapter is Maitreya Rishi explaining it. Right? In the previous chapter, we have seen the discussion between the Maitreya Rishi and Vidura, and it ends where all the demigods are praying to Lord Krishna. And this chapter starts where Maitreya Rishi is explaining how the whole cosmic manifestation is created, and how God's energy is entered into it. Right? With that, let's start. So we will do all the 20 shlokas one by one. The first shloka I will recite, including the shloka and the translation. And after that, one by one, all of us can take parts, and probably we can read every translation one by one. Right? So number one, Rishir Uvacha Ititasam Swasaktinam Satinam Asmetya Saha Prasuptalokatantranam Nisamya Gatim Ishwaraha. Rishi Maitreya said, the Lord thus heard about the suspension of progressive creative functions of the universe due to the non-combination of his potencies, such as Mahatattva. So when we talk about the purports or important points about this shloka, I will explain, what does actually Rishi Maitreya means by saying this, and the explanation given in the purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Second shloka. One of you want to read this, Prabhujis and Matajis? Or try, we can just go with translation.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavad Pranam.
Dandavad Pranam.
The Rishi Maitreya said, the Lord thus
Mataji,
heard...
second one, Mataji. I think first we already done.
Oh. The Supreme Powerful Lord then simultaneously entered into the 23 elements with the goddess Kali, his external energy, who alone amalgamates all the different elements.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. So let's go into the purports by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So the very first sloka itself, Srila Prabhupada very dynamically explains, right, what is the potency of Lord, right? So he explains what is the power of Lord, right? So Srila Prabhupada explains that though there is an entire cosmic manifestation which is already made, nothing is moving. That's the reason if you look at the translation, it says the progressive creative function of the universe is under suspension. The Lord thus heard about the suspension. That means everything is ready. The progressive creation, which is progressing, is ready, but it's not actually moving. It is suspended, right? So it is as good as Prabhupada explains that whatever the matter is in this world, or whatever the manifestation is, will not actually run without the potency or energy of the Lord. It's as simple as that, Prabhujis and Matajis. When we go to a lot of these science fairs, probably to our children's school, or maybe when we were kids, we are doing some science fairs. We say that, we kind of make a model, right? With the sun in between and the planets all around and things like that. But there is a connection point, or there is an energy which need to flow into it, right? For the entire model to work, right? Just by making a sun and probably making some planets, putting around like a balls, it will not move. So for the entire structure to be moved, right, there need to be some kind of energy, probably in terms of an electricity or anything like that, right? Another very simple example is like a fan or a light in our home, right? There could be a beautiful fan, there could be a fantastic light, right? Super switchboards and very nice wires in between, inside. All those things are fine. But unless you switch it on or flip it on, a switch, flip it on or flip it off, right? The energy is not flown into it for the light or the fan to actually start working. So in the same way, though there is a potency of the entire, the cosmic manifestation is already, without Lord's potency, it does not actually work, right? And in Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna confirms this in 9th chapter. He says, I think 9.8, Prakrutim swam avastabhya visarjami punaha punaha bhutagramam imam krishnam avasam prakrutir vasat. So Krishna says, the entire cosmic manifestation is actually running under my will. I can produce it and inhalate it whenever is required or whenever the time comes or whenever I want, right? So without Lord's energy, it is technically not possible for any matter to run, right? So we were discussing about Mahatattva. So there is a last line of the first sloka. If you see, there is something called Mahatattva. So what does Mahatattva actually means, right? Probably, can anybody answer this? Do you have exact definition of what is Mahatattva? Any Prabhujis and Matajis here?
It is just like a matter within a compressed form. Yesterday also Aditya Prabhu explained it is like a canvas. Okay?
Yes.
And raw colors. Okay, but the paint is not yet done.
Correct.
So actual paint is done. Then that is the actual the Mahatattva is a canvas and colors. So
Yes.
with the God's energy, like God is painting. Okay.
Yes.
And actually, like creation is done kind of.
Yes. Yes. It's like a very raw thing, right? See, for example, as I think as Santosh Aditya Prabhu is very well explained yesterday, right? In the same way, in the home, when we are making some food items or some prasadam, right? Prasadam will not happen by itself, right? We can have some jaggery or some flour or some sugar or some kind of ingredients, but only when we put everything together, right? And cook it, then it becomes prasadam. So the raw material cannot itself be a prasadam. In the same way, like Prabhuji was explaining yesterday, right? The canvas or paintings or brushes or whatever it is cannot make the painting. We will have to make the painting, right? So that is exactly the meaning of Mahatattva. And the exact definition given by Prabhupada is, it's a cause of creation, right? Prabhupada explains in this purport that, Mahatattva means the cause of the creation, right? So, and if you look at the second shloka, it explains about the 23 elements, right? 23 elements, or probably the energies of Lord, which his energies are entered into, right? So we will see what are these 23 elements, right? So the 23 elements which are explained in this purport by Srila Prabhupada are material energy, false ego, sound, touch, form, taste, smell, earth, water, fire, air, sky, eye, ear, nose, tongue, skin, hand, leg, evacuating organ, genital, speech, and mind. All these 23 are the energies where Lord has put into this cosmic manifestation, right? And if you look at the translation of this purport or this shloka, clearly says that supreme powerful Lord then simultaneously entered into these 23 elements with the goddess Kali, right? And there are a lot of Brahma Samhita also confirms this, right? There is a shloka of Brahma Samhita 5.35 which says, Andantarastha paramanu chayantarastam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. It says God enters into this potency or enters as in the form of energy, right? Into this anda, right? Several scriptural references are there that, this form of God is available and it is done. Right, so we will go into the next one. The translation of Shloka 3.
So Hare Krishna Prabhu. So
Hare
on
Krishna.
Mahatattva, Krishna has added these 23 elements so that the creation takes place. Can we think in that way, Prabhu?
Sorry, Prabhu. May I know who's talking? I can't see the names, Prabhuji.
Sorry,
Sorry.
Prasad Prabhu. This is Hare
Prasad
Krishna.
Prabhu. Yes, please tell me, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat
So
Pranam.
on Mahatattva, which is the crude compression matter, we can think. On top of that, these 23 elements got added so that the actual creation takes place.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Can we take in that word like
Yes,
okay,
yes.
one sentence?
That's the fundamental explanation of Prabhupada also in this purport.
Okay. Krishna has added these 20. Okay, Prabhu, please go ahead. Prabhu. So on that you said like it is the universe is like anda form. On that anda form, Krishna has added these 23 elements so that the actual creation starts.
Yes, yes. He entered into these 23 elements through his energy, with his external energy of Kali.
Oh.
Then the overall manifestation started working.
Okay. He himself entered into this cosmic world.
Yes.
Okay, with these 23 elements plus Kali. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, Prabhu. Sorry, Prabhu. Please go ahead.
No problem.
Please proceed.
So third shloka. Can anyone read the translation?
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Okay.
Krishna.
Thus, when the personality of the Godhead entered into the elements by his energy, all the living entities were enlivened into different activities, just as one is engaged in his work after awaking from sleep.
Hare Krishna. Fourth shloka.
When the 23 principal elements were set in action by the will of the Supreme, the gigantic universal form or the Vishwarupa body of Lord came into existence.
Hare Krishna. This third and fourth shlokas are very, very important, right? Prabhupada gives a lot of explanation about these two shlokas, right? The first one, if we see, Prabhupada talks about the journey of a soul, how a soul is, probably, how the soul behaves, and what is the journey of a soul is very well explained in this shloka. So Prabhupada says every individual soul, right, remains unconscious after the dissolution of the cosmic nature, right, or the creation, right? So basically dissolution means after the end of this, the overall expansion or probably the cosmic manifestation, all the individual souls, they become unconscious and they enter into the energy of Lord, right? And after the revival of the overall manifestation after some time, and then they are awakened by the Lord and they are put in their prescribed works. That is the soul of the journey. So basically, in a very simple terms, if I have to explain, after the end of this cosmic manifestation, all the individual souls which are eternal, as we know, soul does not have a death and a birth and anything like that. We're unborn, right? So it enters into the energy of the Lord at the dissolution of the entire manifestation, cosmic manifestation. And after some time, when the Lord by his will revives this entire cosmic manifestation, all the souls are gotten back and awakened by the Lord energy, and they start working on their respective or prescribed works, right? So that's the journey of the soul which Prabhupada explains in this shloka, right? Yes. And after this, whichever soul, probably, individually, whether they're unconscious or conscious, or probably, after the permanent dissolution or anything like that, Prabhupada explains that every soul will be given a chance to get liberated from this material nature, right? At one point or other, right? Again, there are a lot of, akarmas and vikarmas and all those things which comes as a part and parcel of it. But it is explained that every soul will get an opportunity. Whether we take that opportunity or we don't take that opportunity is a different thing. As we know, everybody has equal opportunities that we could see, right? But unfortunately, a lot of people in this Kali Yuga do not take that opportunity. They don't even understand what is a liberation. They are very happy in sense gratification, right? So but it's not that there should not be any complaints that they do not get an opportunity. Opportunity is there everywhere. Bhagavad Gita is available everywhere, right? In fact, we are going on the roads and distributing Bhagavad Gita, right? For them to understand. Isn't it an opportunity for such kind of people? It is. But do they understand? Yes or no is the point. And the answer is no. Unfortunately, a lot of people doesn't understand this, and they do not take that opportunity. They do not even understand that, as a soul, if we get a human life like this, it is an opportunity for us to liberate and go back to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? But they don't understand it. And that's where they will have to fall into the cycle of the birth and death and the 84 lakhs species, right? And there is a very interesting comparison Prabhupada gives in this purport about the partial material body dissolution versus total material creation. So what is a partial material body dissolution? Please understand this, very, very technical, right? The comparison. The partial material body dissolution means very simply somebody dying and soul going back, right? Somebody leaving their material body, right? Which is temporary, right? And Prabhupada explains in this purport that this entire model, or the leaving the material body, right, and coming back, is only a matter of few months, if not more, right? Where somebody is leaving their body, going back, maybe whatever, based on their karma, whatever they will have to fulfill and all those things, right? Again, that's a big subject by itself. And then coming back to this material world in whatever form, right? It is only a journey of few months, right? Versus total material creation dissolution is the complete cosmic manifestation is ended, and all the spiritual souls are going back to energy of Lord Krishna. As I said earlier, only after the revival of the entire cosmic manifestation they will come back. So this is the difference between the partial material body dissolution and the total material body dissolution. Lot of impersonalists or lot of faiths, lot of spiritual gurus who are very, very less intelligent, they think that this partial material body dissolution is ultimate and that's the end, right? Even in today's world, lot of faiths does not believe there is an incarnation. It is simple concept of an incarnation. They don't believe there is an incarnation. Lot of faiths. So they think that once the body is dead, when a person dies, that's it. It goes nowhere. It is the end, right? But it is not so, right? Krishna explains in second chapter, several instances where, a person will have to die and come back. He says, Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityur dhruvam janma mritasya cha tasmada pariharete natvam shochitum arhasi. He says a person who's born have to die, and who's dead will have to take birth again, right? And there are several instances where Krishna confirms this, where a lot of faiths do not agree and believe, right? So, such people are, as explained by Prabhupada in this purport, are extremely less intelligent, right? They do not have any intelligence to understand the science of the spirit, right? So am I clear on this partial material body dissolution and total material body creation? Prabhuji and Mataji, any confusion? Am I going
Yes.
too fast?
Yes, Prabhu. Total material creation, dissolution is something like at the end of the yuga, or
Yes,
end of
Mahayuga.
Mahayuga.
Yes,
Yes,
Prabhu. Yeah.
that's what. We can call it as a end of the Brahma's life, or end of the one day of Brahma as well. We can take it like that, Prabhu.
Yes,
Total manifestation.
exactly. After the material cosmic manifestation is ended, that's called the total material creation dissolution.
Okay, Prabhu. Got it. Haribol.
Am I clear, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu.
Oh, thank you.
End of Brahma's life.
Right. So this is the difference between, as I said, partial dissolution and the overall dissolution. In fact, this whatever the Bhagavatam is explaining us how the overall cosmic manifestation works, Krishna also explains and confirms that in 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. He says, Sarva Bhutani Kaunteya Prakrutim Yanti Mamikam Kalpakshaya Punastani Kalpadau Visarjamiyam. Right? He says, after the end of the entire cosmic manifestation, everything is coming back to his energy and lies in him. Right? So that is also supported and confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. The similar statement. Right? So the Virat Rupa, when we come to the fourth shloka, Prabhupada discusses about the Virat Rupa. Virat Rupa, in other words, very simply, if I have to explain, it is nothing but Vishwarupa, which is shown the form which is shown to Arjuna in while in the Bhagavad Gita 11th chapter, right? So Prabhupada says the Virat Rupa is not an eternal form of Lord, but it is a material manifestation like the Archa Vigraha. Why is that?
It is temporary, Prabhu. It is very, very
Yes,
temporary.
it is
Because
temporary.
at the end of the creation, Virat Rupa you may not see.
Yes,
Maybe it will take a lot of time. Yeah, that's the reason.
yes, that's exactly what Prabhupada explains. So Prabhupada explains in this purport that the Virat Rupa is exhibited to convince the impersonalists, right? That he is the supreme personality of the Godhead. Like Krishna is the supreme personality of the Godhead. So he actually exhibited that to convince the impersonalists, right? So it is like, understand this, it is like Krishna exhibiting the Virat Rupa, not Virat Rupa showcasing Krishna. So it's other way around, right? If I have to explain you in a very, very simple terms, let's take an example between Virat Kohli and cricket, right? So cricket is ultimate, let's say, because players might come, they might go, right? Doesn't matter over a period of time. So cricket is ultimate. So Krishna is ultimate, eternal, right? And cricket is displaying Virat Kohli. Krishna is displaying his Virat Rupa, right? Even if Virat Kohli is not there, cricket will run, right? Virat Kohli is not displaying cricket. Cricket is displaying Virat Kohli, right? So that's the difference between Virat Rupa and Krishna. Krishna is always there and he is displaying his Virat Rupa. Through his Virat Rupa, Krishna is not being displayed. That's the reason Prabhupada explains that Virat Rupa is not eternal, right? It is just like any of our Archa Vigraha. However, any of this, it could be a Virat Rupa or Archa Vigraha, whatever it is, because there are actually, probably what should I say? Probably, these belong to Lord Krishna, right? It could be other form of Lord Krishna's, could be Archa Vigraha and Virat Rupa, whatever it is, because they actually belong to Lord Krishna, they are equally important. It's not that just because they are not eternal and it is into the material manifestation, we can't take that, we can't consider them as unimportant, is what Prabhupada explains, right? So that's the difference between the Virat Rupa and Krishna. Am I clear on that?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dhanavad Pranam, Prabhu.
Yeah, then.
Prabhuji, in Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna shows Virat Rupa to Arjuna, so in the last, when Arjuna said that Krishna, please remove this Rupa because I am scared of seeing that
Yes.
Rupa.
Yes.
So actually, then Prabhupada right there that if devotees are not attracted to the Virat Rupa, they are only attracted to the service of Krishna, like something like that.
Yes, Prabhuji, you're right. That's the reason, in any of, if you see a lot of devotees in any of our temples, any of the temples across, Krishna's temples across the world, we do not see the Virat Rupa much as worshipped, right? We always worship the eternal form of Krishna, the simple form of Krishna, right? Good.
Yes, Prabhuji, yes.
So we'll go into the fifth and sixth slokas. Yeah, can somebody read this translation?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dhanavad Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
As the Lord, in his plenary portion, entered into the elements of the universal creation, they transformed into the gigantic form in which all the planetary systems and the all movable and immovable creations rest.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Please make a note of this last line, which says, all movable and immovable creations rest. We will discuss about this when we go into the purport. Sixth shloka. Can somebody read the translation?
Hare Krishna. The gigantic Virat Purusha, known as Hiranmaya, lived for 1000 celestial years on the water of the universe, and all the living entities lay with him. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. So let's go into the purports, right? Some important points from these two shlokas. Number 5, as I said, just make a note of the last line, movable and immovable creation rest. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Mai sarvamidam protam sutre manigana iva. in the 7th chapter, right? That means he's saying everything is resting on me, like the pearl in the chains are resting on the thread inside. Though the thread is not visible, but without the thread, the pearl, the mala of the pearl cannot stand, right? So in the same way, though is not visible to the material, right? But the entire manifestation or the entire energies or entire universe is resting on Krishna, right? So this is very, very important. It is as good as the matter which does not have any potency, right? For example, if we see any matter for that, in the universe, right, where there is no potency, does not have a facility to grow in size or reduce or whatever it is, it actually stops, right? So we can compare that with our materialistic body too, right? Unless there is a spiritual soul inside or a spiritual consciousness inside, the body does not grow, right? As Krishna also says in 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Dehin yosmin yata dehe kaumaram yavvanam jara. So he says body grows, right, from young to youth to probably old age, right? And what happens if there is no soul inside? If there is no spiritual soul inside, what happens, right? Will the body grow? We see a lot of people probably die at an young age, or probably kids as well, right? Let's say, let's take an example, somebody leaving their body at the age of 5 years, where if you see the same person, if he's alive and if he does not leave this body, at the age of 20 or 25, his body size will be much different compared to the age of 5 years. But if he or she leaves his body at the age of 5 years, will that body grow? It will not, because there is no spiritual matter in it, right? So Prabhupada explains in this purport that whatever the matter is, if there is no potency or energy into it, it will not make any difference to it. It will not grow. It will just stop, right? In the same way as I've explained for the materialistic body. So that's the reason the importance of spiritual consciousness is emphasized in this shloka very, very much. And when we talk about spiritual the consciousness, most of the 2nd chapter, after the 40 shlokas to the, probably towards the end of the chapter, the entire chapter talks about the spiritual consciousness, starting from 2.41, where Krishna says Vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeha kurunandana bahushaka kyanantasya buddhayo vyavasayinam. Right, 2.44, he says Bhogaishwarya prasaktanam taya pakruta chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhi samadhauna vidiyate. And 2.45, he talks about gunas, traigunya vishaya veda nistraigunya bhavarjuna nidvandyo nitya satvasto niryoga kshema atmavan. So all these things, starting, there are the others also, like 2.62, 2.63, 2.64, where, Krishna talks about how a consciousness of a person should be and should not be, right? 2.62, he says dhyayato vishayan punsah sangasteshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kamaha kamat krodha vijayate krodhat bhavati sammoha sammoha smriti vibramaha smriti bramshad buddhinasho buddhinashat pranashyati. He says, if you have this kind of consciousness where, you start at a very sense gratification level, what happens eventually? Smritinashat pranashyati, gone, right? And in the same, Krishna confirms in 64, right, that raga dvesha vimukta istu vishayan indriya ishran atma vasya videyatma prasadam madhigachati, right? So he says, if you leave this raga and dveshas, how good your life will be, and ultimately you will get that whatever required from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the spiritual consciousness is given a lot of importance, and not the material consciousness and not the material body. There is no emphasis on the material body at all versus the spiritual consciousness, as Krishna explained in the 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, right? And then we will go into 6th shloka. So here, the gigantic Virat Purusha, known as Hiranmaya, lived for 1000 celestial years on the water of the universe, and all the living entities lay with him. So what is a celestial year? Does anybody know this? Prabhuji and Matajis, can one of you, just if one of you knows this,
The
what is a
year of
celestial year?
demigods. Demigods 1 year.
Now, what is the calculation of a celestial year? So I'm sorry, even I didn't know this, Prabhuji. Please don't take me wrong. When I'm doing my research, I found this. So I'm just checking if one of you knows this by any chance, or we can discuss about this.
1 day of hour is 1 day of days is like 1 year for us, Prabhu. Something like that. Okay. So we can calculate, Prabhu. So
Okay.
please, yeah, that is my understanding, but I have not got.
No problem, Prabhuji. Yeah. So this is the celestial year is equal to 6 into 30 into 12 into 1000 of our years is one celestial year. So please don't ask me to calculate. I am very, very poor at calculation. So, if any of you want to see what is one celestial year, you can multiply these things. So 6 into 30 into 12 into 1000 of our years is one celestial year. Right? And 1000 of such celestial years, Lord is in the form of Garbhodakasai Vishnu. Right? This is where we understand that this particular this particular segment is called where the Lord is entering into the material, the cosmic manifestation. He's entering as a Garbhodakasai Vishnu, because the Karanodakasai Vishnu, like Mahavishnu. After that, the other manifestation is Garbhodakasai Vishnu, and finally Kshirodakasai Vishnu. So this is the Garbhodakasai Vishnu, right? This is the period of the Garbhodakasai Vishnu where God is lying on the waters for 1000 celestial years. 1000 celestial years. Just imagine, Prabhuji and Matas. In one celestial year is what we are talking about, 6 into 30 into 12 into 1000. Right? And 1000 such celestial years, God is lying on this water. Right? This gives us a very, very clear understanding and the picture that, and supports a lot of references which are made in the scriptures, that Krishna is eternal and unborn. Absolutely. Right? And he himself, there are several references to this in a lot of scriptures, but one of it, what I can think is, probably in 10.3, 10th chapter, 3rd sloka, Krishna says that Yomam Ajam Anadimcha Vetti Loka Maheshwaram. He says, Yomam Ajam Anadimcha Vetti Loka Maheshwaram. So Krishna says this in 10.3. So Ajam means unborn. Anadim means from very long time, kind of, eternal. Right? And Brahma Samhita open prayers also confirms this. Ishwaraha Paramaha Krishnaha Satchitananda Vigraha Anadir Adhir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. Brahma says this. And there are other references also in Brahma Samhita where Brahma makes this stuti to Lord Krishna. Right? Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Ananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham Na Vayavvanam Cha Vedeshu Durlabha Madurlabhamatma Bhaktau Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So Brahma himself confirms twice in Brahma Samhita that Krishna is unborn and eternal, right? And Krishna himself confirms that in 10.3. And this particular shloka from Bhagavatam also gives us a very, very clear understanding that even before a single living entity, right, for thousands of such celestial years, Krishna in the form of Garbhodakasai, right, is present, right? And this shloka also explains the birth of the birth of Brahma followed by demigods, and how the universe appeared before this, right? We will discuss about that. So as I said, 10.3 of Bhagavad Gita and Brahma Samhita also confirms this appearance of the universe. So Prabhupada explains in this purport that whatever we see, like all this manifestation, the planets and the outer space and the sky, whatever it is all only half of the actual universe or the entire manifestation, right? Other half is completely filled by water, which we can't see, right? And that is where exactly Lord Krishna is lying for 1000 celestial years in the form of Garbhodakasai Vishnu, right? And this is the overall appearance as explained by Prabhupada in this purport. And Prabhupada also says that, and gives us a very clear picture that only after 1000 celestial years, appearance of Brahma happened. So though the entire cosmic manifestation is ready, right? And Lord Krishna entered into the cosmic manifestation through his material energies and goddess Kali. Brahma was born only after the 1,000 celestial years, followed by demigods, and then followed by the Manus also, right? And that is where Manu is like the father of all the mankind, and that is where that is the reason we are known as Manushyas, because we are the descendants or children of Manu. So we are called Manushyas. Right, so we will go into the 7th shloka. Yeah, probably one of you can read this.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, one minute.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
So, Prabhuji, you are saying we were in Mahatattva and we were waiting for so many years, and then Mahavishnu will glance and everything will start, correct?
Yes.
So, why is that waiting? Was Krishna trying to give us a second chance and see still can we, have we come up to the mark or have we improved? Was that a waiting period that Krishna gave us a second chance and still we didn't make it and then he started it?
Prabhuji, good question. My understanding, at that stage, we do not even have conscious as being spiritual souls, right? So, my understanding, Prabhuji, any of the seniors in the group can correct me if I'm wrong. At that stage, given we do not have conscious and we are lying in the energy of the Lord till the entire universe is revived and the living entities are born, I don't think there is any kind of second chance or any kind of whatever you call it are given to us, or the consciousness is given to us, because the soul, as explained in the previous purports, the soul does not even have consciousness at this stage, because we are still lying in the energy of the Lord. Technically, we are sleeping.
So
Right.
the soul is already there inside Mahatattva, or soul is in Mahavishnu and with the glance it goes?
Yes, as explained in the previous purports, Prabhuji, let me show that to you. Even in the you look at the 6th shloka, it says he lived for 1,000 celestial years on the water of the universe, and all the living entities lay with him. So we are technically inside Lord Vishnu.
Yeah, inside Garbhodaksai Vishnu, Prabhu.
Yes, Garbhodaksai Vishnu. Yes.
So it is just like we are living. We are staying.
Yes.
Okay? It is like this, Iyer Prabhu, in my understanding. I'll just add a little bit. Okay. See, in previous, we were not liberated, Prabhu. Okay. This is another 1,000 celestial years, which is like another creation is starting, Prabhu. Previously, we were not liberated. So we were waiting. Actually, as Dasraj Prabhu mentioned, we were not conscious, he said, right? It is like we're not conscious. We are actually kind of in the sleeping mode. We can think in that way. So in the stomach of Garbhodaksai Vishnu. Okay. Yeah. Aprakata. Okay. Sthai. Maybe you can think like that. So we were like sleeping. So once 1,000 celestial years is complete, then we will be come out. Okay. In a particular order to enjoy this material order. All these is been doing the Vishnu. Okay. Or Garbhodaksai Vishnu. Okay. Or Krishna. It's because we have a tendency to enjoy. So that, like, we all know that. Yeah. So in this particular 1,000 celestial year, we came out, still we are not liberated. Again, this process is going to continue. Correct, Prabhu? Dasraj Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji. I think that Prabhupada also explains that in the earlier one of the shlokas which I have mentioned. So everybody gets a chance, right? Though we are lying in the God, right, during this period, unconsciousness, and when the entire manifestation is revived and our souls are awakened by the Lord, we are given a second chance to get liberated. That's for sure.
Also, Prabhu, in my understanding, this particular 1,000 which we are talking, this is for one Vishwa. Like this, there are so many Garbhodaksai Vishnu and so many living entities.
Yes, yes.
These are all one discussing for one Vishwa.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. We are only discussing for our particular universe. One Anda, basically.
One Anda. So like these Andas, how many are there? Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. There are innumerable Andas.
Yes.
And was this for this 1,000 years also Brahma did his tapasya, or after that 1,000?
Brahma started coming.
I think, as explained, Iyer Prabhu, I think Brahma was not even born.
Okay. Only after 1,000 Brahma will also come into.
Brahma will come only after 1000 celestial years. After Brahma, demigods comes. So that's what the purport
What
is.
could be the reason Mahavishnu may wait for 1000 celestial years, Prabhuji? Any
I am not really sure about that, Prabhuji.
no references, no?
No reference. I could not see anything in this purpose. Maybe, as we progress into this chapter, probably after, at least for first 1 to 20, 25 slokas, I could not see any references of this. So maybe when Prasad
Prabhu,
Prabhu
in
is
my
doing
understanding,
tomorrow's
Prabhu,
session,
yeah,
we
Prabhu,
might
in
find
my
it.
understanding, it is like a daytime and nighttime. Okay, in my understanding. So, okay, it is like a process is getting started. Okay, it is like how much daytime is there, in the same way nighttime will be there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Yes,
think
Prabhuji.
that makes sense.
Maybe logically we can think in that way.
Yes, Prabhuji. Okay.
Like
Thank
in
you.
the same way, exactly Brahma's day, again Brahma's night. Okay, so everything in that way maybe we can understand. But as Dasraj Prabhu mentioned, as of now we don't see any difference.
Yeah, we
Maybe
did not
this
find any
entire
difference.
third canto is going to cover Mahatattva to a great extent, Prabhu. So it will come in further chapters. Yeah. Thank you.
So seventh shloka, can one of you read this?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
The total energy of the Mahatattva in the form of gigantic Virat Rupa divided by himself into the consciousness of the living entities, the life of activity and self-identification, which are subdivided into 1, 10 and 3 respectively. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Eighth shloka translation.
The gigantic universal form of the Supreme Lord is the first incarnation of and plenary portion of the Super Soul. He is the self of an unlimited number of living entities, and in him rests the aggregate creation which thus flourishes.
Yes. So look at the seventh shloka. There is some mention about 1, 10 and 3 respectively. So we are going to discuss that in the ninth shloka elaborately, right? So there is a detail given in the ninth shloka for this. So I will discuss this when we go to ninth shloka. So coming to eighth shloka is also self-explanatory, right? So the Supreme Lord is the first incarnation, right? So expansion of Supreme Lord, there could be two expansions of Supreme Lord as explained by Prabhupada in this purport, right? So the first expansion is the personal plenary expansions, which are Vishnu Tattvas, right? And second expansion is separated minute expansions, which are living entities, which are we actually. There are two expansions of the Lord. Right, so we will go into ninth shloka is also extremely important. Ninth and 10th are actually important. Ninth is very, very important. So can one of you read this 9?
The gigantic universal form is represented by 3, 10 and 1 is 1 in the sense that he is the body and the mind and the senses. He is the dynamic force for all the movements by 10 kinds of life energies, and he is the one earth where life energy is generated.
Thank you, Akinci Prabhu. Hare Krishna. So we will discuss about this. What is this 1, 3 and 10? So Prabhupada starts with the explanation about these three. So before that, I actually wanted to quote few or two shlokas from Bhagavad Gita, 7 chapters, 7.4 and 7.5, which are, though they are not directly related to this shloka, but are very, very important, right? We can take a lot of references from those two shlokas. So, Krishna says in 7.4 that Bhumir aponalo vayu kammano buddhirevacha ahankara itiyam me binna prakrutir ashtadha. So he says, apart from the 5 subtle energies or gross elements, what we have, like air, fire, sky, water, right, and earth, ether, right? So they are apart from these 5, there are other 3 energies as well, which are also called subtle energies, which is like intelligence, mind, and false ego, right? These 3. Krishna says all these 8 are his inferior energies. And he says in 7.5, Apareyamitasthanyam prakritim viddhi me param jiva bhutam maho baho edhyam daryate jagat. So he says, apart from my inferior energy, which explained in the earlier shloka, there is one superior energy of mine, which are living beings, all of us, who always exploits the inferior energy of him, right? And all this inferior energy and the exterior energy, which are explained in 7.4 and 7.5, are throughout the body, runs throughout the body and connects with one centralized organ is called heart, right? And it is explained that these 5 gross elements, right, all the 5 gross elements are like what should I say, are probably like, the coats which we are wearing externally, right, or the clothing which we are wearing externally, all the 5 elements. And the 3 elements which are invisible are like the clothing which we do inside, right? So there's an external clothing and internal clothing, and all connected through one centralized part, which is heart, right? So with that, there is a further deviation or a further development of this 1 into 10 into 3. So we'll see what are those 3, 10 and 1, right? The 3 are body, mind and senses, right? And now the 10, basically these 10, what this shloka is explaining are about the 10 kinds of airs within our body, right? And the first air is prana, which is passing through our nose. Apana, passing through the rectum. Samana, adjusts food stuff with stomach. Udana, passes through throat. Vyana, circulates through the entire body. Eyes and mouth, it's called naga, facilitates opening this air. Krakara increases appetite. Kurma helps contraction. And finally, Devadatta, which relaxes our mouth or yawning. So these are the 10 kinds of airs, which is explained by Prabhupada in this purport. So this is 3 and 10. The explanation of 3 and 10, which is mentioned in this shloka. And 1 is finally heart, where everything is centralized. So whatever it is, it could be a gross elements or a subtle elements or inferior energy, superior energy, or these 3, 10, everything is centralized through heart, controlled by heart, right? And Prabhupada beautifully explains about all these things, because of the lack of time and lack of space, I could not put a lot of this information here. But if you, whenever you have time, Prabhuji and Matajis, just go through this 9th shloka of 3rd canto 6th chapter. Very, very beautifully explained about this, 3.10.1, right? What are the elements and all, I think we'll definitely need to spend some time on this. Tenth. Any of you want to read this?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
The Supreme Lord is the super soul of all the demigods, entrusted with the task of constructing the cosmic manifestation. Being thus prayed to by the demigods, he taught to himself and thus manifested the gigantic form for their understanding.
Right? So we have discussed this in our earlier shloka also. The Virat Rupa is basically exhibited to convince the impersonalists, right? Because it's not easy for them to understand that, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? And Krishna, there are several references in Bhagavad Gita from 9th chapter and 7th chapter where Krishna says that it is not easy to understand him, right? In 9.11, Krishna says, Avajananti mam muda manushim tanum ashritam, right? It says, fools, mudas cannot understand him when he derived, when he came to this earth in a human form, right? In 7.25 also Krishna says, Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavruta mudhoyam nabijanati. So it's not easy to understand Krishna. That's the reason he, he thought to this as explained by Prabhupada in this purport. Prabhupada says that Krishna thought to himself that, it is not easy to understand. Therefore, he had to manifest in this gigantic form of, Virat Rupa to make himself visible to this impersonalist, right? And Prabhupada also explains in this purport that these impersonalists, they feel and they strongly believe that there is no control force behind this Virat Rupa. So they think that it is ultimate. At least for them to understand, yes, he is ultimate. Krishna had to display that form. But they think that there is no form behind this. There is no control behind this form. But it is not true, right? It is very simply explained in this purport that can a baby grow by itself in a womb of a mother? Answer is no, it cannot, right? It need to be supported by mother in several ways. Unless supported by mother, a fetus or a baby cannot grow well in the womb of a mother. In the same way, without the support of the Supreme Personality of the Godhead from behind, Virat Rupa cannot be exhibited. It is the Supreme Personality of the Godhead is exhibiting the Virat Rupa. They don't understand that. They think Virat Rupa is ultimate. That's it. They at least accept that, right? So their thinking, Prabhuji and Matajis, is like a frog in a well. So we know this very wonderful story where Lilananda Prabhuji also mentioned several times, right? So there a frog which is in a well thinks that's all his world is, and when a frog from his friend from a Pacific Ocean came into this well and says, my Pacific Ocean where I am coming from is much, much bigger. And the frog will try to compare that with the small well where it is in. So how big is the Pacific Ocean? Is it double of this well, triple of this well, or 100 times of this well? Right? It only compares with whatever it knows. Right? So that is their thinking. They cannot think beyond that point. Right? And 11th, it's very self-explanatory. Maitreya Muni says, you may now hear from me how Supreme Lord separated from himself into diverse forms of demigods after the manifestation of gigantic universal form. Now, Maitreya Muni is shifting to the next gear. From, as I said, section 1, from 1 to 11, there's a total form of, Virat Rupa, how it is formed and how the entire material manifestation is formed and how the soup and the souls, travel. All those things are very, very clearly explained till here. Now we are getting into a different segment of this the first half of this chapter, where it is simply explained that, how Supreme Lord separated himself into diverse forms of demigods, right? So most of the shlokas does not have any purpose because they're all self-explanatory. Right? We will see if it goes like, it very simply says that, Varuna has taken a form of, this part of the Virat Rupa, or Agni has taken this form of Virat Rupa. It's simply self-explanatory. So technically there are no purports given by Prabhupada for all these shlokas except one or two, which I will discuss when we are going in detail. Right? I think this part we will cover it soon. I think we will be able to finish in next 10 minutes or so. So 12th, one of you want to read it?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Agni or heat separated from his mouth, and all the directors of material affairs entered in their respective positions. By that energy, the living entity expresses himself in words. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. So it says that, Agni has taken the mouth form of the Lord. And by that, we are able to speak or, express himself in words. 13. Can one of you read this?
When the palette of the gigantic form was separately manifested, Varuna, the director of water in the planetary systems, entered therein, and thus the living entity has the facility to taste everything with his tongue.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So Varuna is manifested, right, in the form of his tongue. 14. One of you can read this.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
When the Lord's two nostrils separately manifested themselves, the 12 Ashwini Kumaras entered their proper positions, and because of this, the living entities can smell the aromas of everything. Hare Krishna.
Yes. Hare Krishna. So basically, the nostrils of the Lord are manifested as dual Ashwini Kumaras, and which is allowing us to, because of them. So basically, all of these, if you look at, they are like the main deities of whatever that we are trying to do. right? So if we're talking, if we are looking at mouth, the main deity of the mouth is Agni, right? If we are talking about the nostrils, it is Ashwini Kumaras, right? So that way, every demigod has manifested, God has, or the Lord has manifested into every part into different demigods. 15. Anyone want to read?
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Prabhu. Thereafter, the two eyes of the gigantic form of the Lord were separately manifested. The sun, the director of light, entered them with a partial representation of eyesight, and thus the living entities can have vision of forms. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So basically, two eyes of Lord represents sun, right? And Lord Krishna, he himself confirms in 7th chapter, right? Raso Mapatsu Kaunteya Prabhasmi Sachishuryaha. He is the sun. I am the sun is what Krishna himself is confirming. Though there is no purport given to this, Prabhuji and Matajis in this chapter, probably I would like to just spend a couple of minutes, next 2 or 3 minutes, to explain what Acharyas has explained in several scriptures about the sun. Right, there is a very interesting story which I have read. While I was actually going through the birth of Lord Krishna. I was reading about that topic and researching on this topic, right? So Acharyas explained that when Vasudev Maharaj is taking Lord Krishna, out of the jail, or probably in the prison where he is. So they are actually crossing every door by door. Every door is closed. So when they go to a specific door, the door is being opened. And when they go to a different door, the door is being opened. And when they cross, the door behind is getting closed. So this is the way it is explained by Acharyas, that how Krishna is exited from the prison door by door. And it's also explained by Acharyas that wherever he is going, for example, if he is crossing one particular door or a gate, there is a light which is showing up only in that particular area, right? It's like a torch. You just try to place a torch, you will see a round light around. So in the same way, wherever Krishna is passing by, the light is coming only till that area. And Acharyas explained this very beautifully. It is because Krishna's eyes are sun, right? So wherever Krishna's eyes are seeing, right, in that area there is light, right, through the sun. So it's very beautifully explained, and several references are given on this one. This is one of the reference which I am quoting, right? It is explained during the birth of Krishna that Krishna's eyes are sun, therefore there is a light wherever he's passing by, right? 16. Yeah, one of you can read this.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
When there was a manifestation of skin separated from the gigantic form, Anila, the deity directing the wind, entered with partial touch, and thus the living entities can realize tactical knowledge. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. So the skin, the directing deity of the skin is Anila. 17. Yeah. One of you can do this, Prabhuji and Mataji.
When the ears, when the ears of the gigantic form became manifested, all the controlling deities of the directions entered into them with the hearing principles, by which all the living entities hear and take advantage of sound. Hare Krishna.
Oh, thank you, Prabhuji. So it is very clearly noted that all the directions, deities of different directions entered into the ears. And Prabhupada, out of all these things, is very few purports that is given from the 11 to 12 to 20 is one of it. So Prabhupada emphasized on the hearing, right? And Prabhupada also quotes that out of the 9 process of devotional service, the basic thing is Shravanam, right? And Prabhupada explains that hearing is very important. So that's the reason we need to understand this purport very carefully, that and what is the emphasis given on the hearing, right? And as explained in this purport by Srila Prabhupada, right? Out of this 9 devotional process, as the hearing is given a lot of emphasizing, right? It is important for all of us to give that level of importance for the hearing, as also always explained by His Grace Lilananda Prabhuji, right? Shravanam is the basic thing, right? And ears are very, very important in all of our organs, because anything we hear is the knowledge that we are gaining, right? So, that's where, Prabhupada explains that there is a lot of emphasis need to be given for hearing here. 18. I'll read this myself. So, in 18, purport says, when there was a separate manifestation of skin, the controlling deities of sensations and their different parts entered into it, and thus the living entities feel itching and happiness due to touch. 19. When the genitals of gigantic form separately became manifest, then Prajapati, the original living creature, entered into them with his partial semen, and thus the living entities can enjoy sex pleasure. So this shloka also gives us an understanding that the sex pleasure, right, is also the part of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Krishna also confirms this in 7th chapter. He says, Balam balavatam chaham kama raga vivarchitam dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshava. Right? So Krishna says, I am that sexual pleasure, I am that sexual pleasure which is not against the religious principles. Dharma vriddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshava, he says. So I am that sex pleasure which is not against the religious principles, right? Some of the less intelligent and foolish people, they only read half of such shlokas, and they give their own mundane explanations and purports towards it, and saying, Krishna says he's the sex pleasure, so let's enjoy, right? So but it is not. Krishna is, they need to read the complete shloka, and Krishna says, Dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamoshmi bharatarshava. I am that sex pleasure which is not against the religious principles. So if it is, most of these expressors today are, we are seeing in today's society, are against the religious principles. So Krishna confirms, I am not that, right? So last shloka. Does anybody want to read this, Prabhuji and Mataji?
Shall I, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji, please.
The evacuating channel separately became manifest, and the director named Mitra entered into it with partial organs of evacuation. Thus, the living entities are able to pass stool and urine. Correct.
Yes. So we all heard a story. I think most of us would have heard, right? In the magazine of Back to Godhead, Prabhupada has published an article which says God is in stool also. And this changed the life of a person in France. I don't know how many of you know this story. I think Lilananda Prabhuji told this several times to us, right? And this is exactly what it is, right? So the Mitra, the director who manifested into the partial organs of evacuation. Thus, we are living entities. We are able to peacefully pass our stool and urine. And it is passing of the stool and urine is also part of the gigantic form of Lord, which is Virat Rupa. So everything is there. That's the reason Prabhupada very clearly writes in that Godhead magazine that God is in stool too, which is changed. I don't recollect the name of that devotee, but I remember that he's become a devotee after that, and has become a lifetime member of ISKCON too. He's still, I'm not sure if he's still there in this material world, but yeah, this I know there is a story which actually changed the entire life of a devotee in France. So with that, we come to an end of this session, Prabhuji and Matajis. There are a couple of takeaways which I just want to recap on what we have discussed. So we discussed about the Lord's potency. So without Lord's potency or Lord's power, nothing can move. No matter can move, right? Whatever, however big or small it is, there need to be a potency of the Lord entering into it for anything to be running or action. So we discussed about important elements. There are 23 elements that we have discussed about, and 10 kinds of airs which are running through the body. Journey of a soul, we discussed that the partial dissolution and the permanent dissolution. which we discussed, and what happens during the partial dissolution to the soul, and what happens during the personal dissolutions, where the soul enters into the energy of the Lord and stays there for very long period till there is a revival of the cosmic manifestation. So we spoke about Virat Rupam. What is a Virat Rupam, and is it material into the material world or eternal? We discussed about that. And we discussed about the spiritual consciousness, how well it is important, and how a material body can also grow only with the help of spiritual consciousness, and what happens if there is no spiritual consciousness in a body. And different expansions of Lord. We spoke about 2 different expansions of Lord. So I think with this we come to an end. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. If we have any questions, we can discuss. So before that, I would like to thank all of you, and please forgive me if I've spoken anything wrong with my less intelligent mind. Right? Please correct me if there is anything that I've spoken incorrectly. I'm open for the feedback and discussion. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dasraj Prabhu, wonderful session, Prabhu. Okay, in fact, such a technical topic, Prabhu, and you have presented, you have summarized everything, you have put together and presented extremely well, Prabhu. Very difficult to understand this technical topic, Prabhu. So, Haribol. Only one point, Prabhu. Very question. Like semi versus partial versus there is another form. He said like the soul journey, Prabhu. Yeah. 2 technical words are used.
Yes.
Partial.
There is a partial dissolution and permanent dissolution, Prabhuji.
Okay.
But the material dissolution.
Material dissolution. One is basically this particular lifetime, one's particular lifetime. Okay, leaving this body and again taking another body.
That's a partial dissolution.
That is partial. And the next one is basically till the completion of this particular cycle. Okay, of the Brahma's 100 days or whatever. Yeah.
That is the end of a material cosmic manifestation.
Yeah, that is end of material. Yeah. But again, another he may take another. Okay, another. So, but not able to connect with the explanation with the context of these 2 and the overall information. So, why he's brought those 2 concepts? Not able to connect with the presentation, whatever we have seen. Okay, with those 2 technical words, Prabhu. Maybe it may come in future. At least in this session, at least I have not seen.
Okay, so let me try and explain that, Prabhu, with whatever my understanding and what are the information or research I have made on this topic. So Prabhupada brings in that explanation when he was talking about how the manifestation was created, right? And he also says, what are the living entities lying on it, lying on the manifestation or lying in the energies of a Lord, the potency of a Lord. So in that context, it goes from the potency of a Lord, where the entire manifestation requires his energy, right? And Lord entering into the energies. And while entering into the energies, what happens, right? Why all the living entities are lying on him. So what are that living entities? It is technically the individual souls, right? And how an individual soul operates? It operates in these 2 ways. Right? It could be a permanent dissolution or a temporary dissolution. In that one, though it is, see, these things are not part of the shlokas, but Prabhupada gets a connection and explains us.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Padma Mataji, Hare Krishna.
It may be like this, no? Partial dissolution is in every yuga, in every time, a material body or a living entity, it will die and the soul will get another body. But this total dissolution is due to this when Pralaya Kala, we say, no? Then all the living entities go into the stomach of the Supreme Lord.
Yes.
And it is a total dissolution.
Yes,
but
exactly.
Again, after some time, that is 1 day of Brahma, that celestial, all the living entities take birth.
Yes, they're awakened.
They are awakened then. So that is a total dissolution. That means
yes, Mataji. Yeah. I'm sorry if I was not able to explain this clearly. I think there are a lot of probably discussion on this partial and permanent dissolution. But just to keep it clear, partial dissolution need not be after the entire permanent dissolution, right? Partial dissolution means basically it need not be calculated with yugas also, right?
It will be happening every time.
It can happen at any time. There is no time frame for
it. And any amount, any number of these
it
things.
could be any time, any number of times.
Yeah.
Somebody dying, going back, and taking a birth.
Taking birth.
That's it. That's a partial dissolution. And permanent dissolution or a material dissolution is where the entire manifestation comes to an end. Everything goes back into the energy of the Lord.
Yeah.
That is the permanent dissolution.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Kinjan Prabhu.
Yeah, here the connection is that is what you are nicely explained, Prabhuji, and you and Mataji. So the connection is the Krishna soul. It's actually about the soul's transmigrating. Either with the help of the karma, you are getting the new body, transmigrating to another body, or after complete 311 trillion years in the lifespan of Brahma, right? So everything is going into the stomach of Garbhodakya Vishnu, and again, since the desire is there, again you will take a birth again and all. But you have to understand that soul gets transmitted even after the yugas and completion of yugas also, in the sense 311 trillion years and all. So only the way is, if you take up the spiritual activity, you will go to the Vailoka. Otherwise, you will be entering into one of the body or one of the universes. And all. So soul is the soul, and transmigration is the two things actually common. Is the common thing actually between this partial or complete this whatever Prabhuji is speaking.
Yeah, dissolution. Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah, as explained earlier, I think, in one of the shlokas also, Prabhupada very clearly explains that, after the revival of the entire cosmic manifestation, souls come back again. They're awakened. So it is not that the story is over. It's not the end of it. So though they go back to Lord Krishna, right, into his energy at the permanent dissolution, they're allowed to come back. They're given an opportunity to come back. They're awakened basically, so that they use that opportunity and liberate. So that's where, Prabhupada also says, so when we get an opportunity, right, we should engage ourselves into the spiritual activities so that we can easily get out of this cycle of birth and death and go back to Krishna.
Yes.
Hare Krishna. Thanks, Prabhuji. Thanks, Akinchan Prabhu.
Thank you.
Wonderful explanation.
It is again as per their karma only, isn't it? They take another birth or something like that.
Yeah, karma and
karma. Yeah, that's a different topic by all by itself. It's again, getting into karmas, akarmas, vikarmas, all that is it's a big topic by itself. There are a lot of things which comes with it, of course.
Yeah. Of course.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Prasad Prabhu, hope I was able to clarify your question,
yes, Prabhu.
At least to some extent.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna. That's all. Sorry, Prabhu. I have one question. I think we discussed about it, but still I'm not sure. We said, Prabhu, I think Prasad Prabhu also mentioned, we'll be in a state of aprakatita, not prakatita state. Prabhu, we say, generally we hear, right, soul is eternal and Satchidananda, even the qualitatively same with Lord. So we are eternal. When we say eternal, Prabhu, how can at one point be unconscious, Prabhu? Just that is where I was not clear, Prabhu. Maybe I did not understand. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Sure, Prabhu. I'll give you my understanding. So unconsciousness does not mean that we are not eternal, Prabhu. We are always there. Right? Soul is always there. It is just that the consciousness of the soul is different. Right? Because there is no material manifestation, till the revival of the entire manifestation is supposed to be coming in, which is in progress, all the living entities or the living souls will go back to Krishna and stay within his energy, unconsciousness. Does not mean that we are not eternal, we are not dying that time, right? The souls are they're not born and they will not die. It is just that it is a temporary halt where they go back to Lord Krishna because there is no material manifestation. See, soul will have to come into the bodies, right, in order to perform their karma or take an opportunity and go into a spiritual journey and finally go back to Krishna. But when there is no spiritual manifestation, when there is no material world, where will the soul take birth into? Right? It needs a body and it needs a material world to burn its karma or do whatever it is and finally go back to Krishna. So when there is no material manifestation, because the soul cannot die, it is eternal, there is a place where it will have to reside, right? Therefore, it will go back to Krishna and put it and it goes into his energies and stay till there is a new revival of the entire cosmic manifestation is again done. So once the manifestation is done, they come back to this world.
Okay.
That's my understanding, Prabhu. But if any of you feel there is a different thing, Shri Gopal Prabhu, Prasad Prabhu, Akinchan Prabhu, if there is anything, Satya Prabhu, Ayer Prabhu, if you have anything, probably if there is a different concept to it, you can explain, Prabhuji. Any of you, Prabhujis and Matajis.
Yes, Prabhu. Actually, your explanation is very apt, Prabhu. So it is like consciousness is still there, Prabhu, but it is in the mode of a different state. It is not in a living state.
Yes.
Okay, it is in a sleeping state, we can think.
It's a sleeping state, like we are sleeping in the night and getting up in the morning.
Exactly. Are we say that like in a sleeping state, are we not conscious? We are.
Yes.
That is the reason when you wake up in the next morning, you know that you had a deep sleep.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it is not possible. Yeah.
And we can also remember some of the dreams and all those things. So that's a different level of consciousness.
Yeah, that is a different level of consciousness. Correct.
Prabhu, if it is okay, I have one crude question, Prabhu. Sorry, but it's
sure, Prabhuji.
Yeah, but it's related to this topic, Prabhu. Prabhu, like we say, based on our karma, we take birth in the material world. But we are all eternal part of Krishna in the Krishna's world. But when we come to material world, Prabhu, the day one, I don't know when the day one is because it's a continuous cycle. So we don't have previous karma, Prabhu. We just wanted to enjoy like Krishna. That's why we are into material world. So day one, Prabhu, without any karma, should all the souls will be same? How Krishna decides, Prabhu, like you become a human, you become a tree, you become an animal. Sorry, Prabhu, I don't know if this question is valid, but the day one.
This question is definitely valid, but I think probably this is little out of thing for this particular topic, right?
Sure.
In 8th chapter, actually, Krishna explains this in Bhagavad Gita, Prabhu. What is your consciousness will be the reason of your birth in your next life. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tajakyante kalevaram tam tame vaiti kaunteya sada tadbhava bhavitaha. Right? So Krishna says, whatever your consciousness is, when you are leaving your body, right, you will take birth in a similar form you'll take a birth in a similar form, basically.
Yeah.
Right? So that is the reason, based on our consciousness, that kind of body is given to us in our next life.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Yes,
so it's very clearly explained in the 8th chapter.
May I add one point, Prabhu, here?
Yes, Prabhuji, please.
Okay. See, what I heard is like Lilananda Prabhu only mentioned at one point, like we all take human birth, okay, on day one, or when you really rejected Krishna. Why we are here? Okay, we rejected Krishna. We don't want to be with Krishna. We want to enjoy like him. That is the reason we rejected. And all these process came, okay, Garbhodaksa, Vishnu and all that. Like Krishna's allowed us to stay here. Now, when you mentioned when we started, Prabhu, so the birth of human, then as Dasraj Prabhu mentioned, after the human birth, depending upon our consciousness, we take into the different species. So we may go to animals, or again human, or very initial stage itself, we understand this Shastra and go back to Godhead. Yeah. So start with, I think Lilananda Prabhu mentioned, we definitely take a human birth, the starting point.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Sure.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Dasraj Prabhuji. Thank you for the wonderful class. And we can clearly see the depth of your knowledge. Thank you so
Not
much.
at all, Prabhuji.
Yeah. No. Excellent, Prabhuji. Thank you. Thank you so much. So if there are no further questions, we'll close the class. Thank you everyone for joining.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Prabhujis and Matajis, for attending this session, giving an opportunity to serve all of you. Please forgive me if I have done any mistakes and if I have spoken anything wrong. Thank you very much. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya
Dasya
kripa
kripa
sindhubhayeva
sindhubhaya
patitanam
Nilananda Vaishnavabhyo namo.
ananta koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Bhagavad ki